Does cutting your ex off make him or her miss you? Yes, it does. But there's a catch. You have to really mean it. In this video, I'll explain what it takes to get an ex to actually miss you and why, when most people do it, it doesn't work or it even backfires. But before we get into this tricky topic, I want to first explain to you guys how I even know this. You see, I coach people to help them get their ex back. So I've heard hundreds of stories and tested many approaches. By giving you this advice, I hope to help you not make the same mistakes I see everybody make. Breakups are tough and emotional, especially when you're the one who is getting dumped. I've been dumped myself, so I know the feeling of desperation that often follows. It's almost as though a rug just got pulled from under your feet. You have a hard time believing that this is for real. How can your ex drop you just like that? Surely they don't really mean it, or do they? When you're in a state like this, it's natural to want to regain a sense of control by giving the dumper a taste of their own medicine. Hence, you might want to cut him or her off to get them to miss you and want you back. If only it was so simple. There are two major scenarios of when cutting your ex off doesn't produce the desired effect. Number one, when your ex has dismissive avoidant attachment style. If you're new to attachment styles or are unsure of which one your partner is, check out my husband's video on this. But you don't need to know all the theory to understand why cutting your ex off doesn't work in this case. If your partner is overall dismissive of your needs or feelings, if they shut you down easily, or if you've been weighing your words before speaking to not make him or her pull away or dismiss you, know that this means that the power dynamic in your relationship is skewed. Avoidants always make sure that they have an upper hand in this area, that they are the ones in control. Your ex or partner is used to getting what they want, and you're used to compromising or caving in. They have most of the power, you have next to none, especially after a breakup. Trying to cut off a dismissive avoidant doesn't make them miss you because they know when you're bluffing. Plus, they are convinced that deep down you desperately want them, especially if you keep on telling them you love them or miss them or that they're the one. Trying to get a dismissive avoidant to miss you by cutting them off is like trying to win a street race when your opponent is a race car driver. You don't really stand a chance. They're the ones who are playing this exact game with you. So they'll always sense it when you're only trying to trick them or influence them. Plus, they know all it takes to get you to back down is to pull away even further. So when your ex is a dismissive avoidant, cutting them off won't make them miss you because it's their signature move. They'll always one-up you by acting unfazed or not contacting you longer than you can stand it. This was the scenario number one. The second type of situation when cutting your ex off doesn't make them miss you is similar but slightly different. Number two, when your ex has fearful avoidant attachment style. Fearful avoidants have the tendency to feel overwhelmed. They also struggle with setting boundaries. When they break up, they tend to act very hot and cold, which makes their partners confused. If your ex seems undecided or doubtful, to you it might feel like an invitation to make more effort or make something happen. Unfortunately, fearful avoidants can't say no. So sometimes they just go along with what you want and then pull away and resent you afterward. When you cut off a fearful avoidant, they usually initially just feel relieved because the pressure they've been feeling is suddenly gone. This initial reaction is often enough to make you anxious and start chasing again. Much like dismissive avoidance, fearful avoidants have tricks up their sleeve that ensure that they are the ones in control. But cutting them off is a bit easier, and they also come around much faster than dismissive avoidance. Alright, so how do you cut off an ex with avoidant attachment style, or any attachment style for that matter, in a way that will get them to miss you and want you back? Here's where we'll talk about the catch I mentioned in the beginning of this video. There are two requirements you have to fulfill to get your ex-partner to react the way you want them to react. The first one being, you have to mean it. You do have to detach emotionally or let go, at least to some degree, to be able to make your ex feel like they're losing you. People tend to think they're so sneaky that if they don't respond or stop looking at your ex-partner's stories, it will make him or her feel like you don't care. In reality, all the games we play with each other in relationships are blatantly obvious. When you're doing something purely for an effect, it's super easy to spot it. Our intentions and our emotional state comes across in our words and actions, whether we like it or not. If you've been love bombing your ex or reasoning with them, trying to convince them to give you a second chance, and then you suddenly go radio silent, they'll interpret your silent treatment as just another attempt of yours at trying to change their mind about the breakup. This is particularly true when they then text you about pragmatics and you don't reply. This doesn't make them feel like they're losing you. It makes them feel like you're still sulking and being difficult because you want them back. If you want to get your ex to miss you, you have to accept the breakup. You have to let go and detach emotionally to a degree. Otherwise, all your attempts will only come across as pushy, no matter what you say and do. People who fail at this point end up fluctuating between periods of chasing or even love bombing and no contact. They send loving messages, and when they don't get a positive response, they go no contact. They then wait a couple of days or a week and send more nice texts, but their ex is still stubborn, so they go no contact again, and so on and so forth. By doing this, they are keeping their ex feeling secure and successfully preventing him or her from missing them, often for months. Detaching yourself emotionally and actually meaning it is a must if you want to make an impact on your ex. But there's a second component to this. It might seem obvious, but most people end up completely missing it. The second requirement for cutting your ex off in a way that will get them to miss you is that you communicate it to them when you're letting go. Most people go straight from chasing or being loving to no contact. But the problem with this is, even though you might be actually letting go and moving on, your ex has no idea that this is where you're at. They will tend to still think you're madly in love with them and want them back, especially when you're dealing with an avoidant. An ex who dumped you will always think he or she still has time or can get you back whenever. Meanwhile, you'll be slowly starting to let go. But if you never show it to them, if you're always nice and forthcoming, or even if you're just silent, they'll never know that your attitude towards them is shifting. So many people who have been dumped hide the fact that they're now dating. They don't want to risk making their ex upset, or worse yet, hearing that he or she is cool with it. So they keep it a secret. Similarly, others tend to be forthcoming and friendly every time they hear from their ex who dumped them. This is common among people who are uncomfortable with conflict. They never show any negative emotions. They're always nice and pleasant. So their ex has no idea where they are really at and that they might be in fact slowly moving on. If you fail to communicate to your ex that you are cutting them off, they won't notice it. They'll think you're still in love with them and are probably doing no contact to get them back. Because of this, they won't miss you enough to rethink their breakup decision. There's one circumstance where cutting off your ex will only backfire, meaning it will only make things worse. And that's when they're upset about something. For example, if you're the avoidant and your ex got tired of your unavailability and indecision, if this was the case, then cutting them off will only encourage them to move on. Perhaps you're not an avoidant, but you messed up. You were caught doing something you weren't supposed to be doing, or your ex was complaining about your behavior, kept on telling you that something isn't working for them. If these are the circumstances of your breakup, cutting your ex off will only make them more angry, more resentful, and distant. If this was the case, then the power dynamic in your relationship was skewed in your favor. You had more control and your ex grew tired of it. They now need you to accept that you lost your influence over them, that you can't get them to back down using your old tricks anymore. The harder you try to influence them, the more they'll rebel and resist. If you messed up, the only way to melt your ex's anger is to listen to their complaints and take them seriously, to humbly accept their decision and not push for what you want anymore. Alright, as you can see, cutting your ex off to make them miss you is not easy and straightforward. There are a lot of nuances to consider to make sure that it actually has the desired effect. When most people do it, they fall into all the pitfalls I described here. They only do it for an effect, they don't communicate it properly, or they go no contact when they shouldn't. Because of this, it usually just ends up making them more anxious or even messes up their chances for getting their ex back. If you're struggling with making sense of your own situation, Know that you don't have to figure it out by yourself. You can just talk to somebody who has been through what you're going through and who also heard hundreds of stories and will know the best approach for your particular case. Both Gabriel and I would be more than happy to support you with your breakup in a one-on-one coaching call. If you want to know more, I'll link our schedules and more exact information in the description. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. And if you're on the lookout for more breakup advice, subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching and see you soon.